Good afternoon. Well, it's not quite afternoon now. It's afternoon now. My clock just clicked over to 12 p.m. And I'm just going to give a few minutes, maybe not minutes, we'll see, for people to join. Ashley, I see you are here with us. You have your video off. That's totally cool. Come on if you'd like to. Keep your camera off if you'd like to, because this is being recorded and will be put on my YouTube channel this afternoon or tomorrow. And you can ask questions. You can type a question to me. You can voice a question to me. You can type a question to me. Either way, it doesn't matter. And today, my plan has been to talk about the 5 losing strategies that we tend to use to try and get what we want in our relationships. And they're called losing strategies for a reason because they don't help you get what you want. One of my fears, of course, is that I schedule these meetings and then I'm going to end up just talking to myself. So I'm not, and I really appreciate you being here today. So I'm looking right at you. I think I'll just remind everybody who I am and why I'm doing this. I'm Risa Ganel, and I am a couples therapist. My practice is Together Couples Counseling in Columbia, Maryland. And I really enjoy having conversations with people directly, right? That's what I do all day long in my office. So I can write blog posts, and that's what I've done for many, many years. But the writing part of it to me is just not as fun as engaging with you. And since you are here, or if you are listening to this recording, that might mean you are on my email list, because I only invite people on my email list to participate in this with me live. That is a benefit you get just from allowing me into your inbox. So I really, really appreciate that. I want to get to know you, and I want you to have the opportunity to get a sense of who I am and how I operate and how I do things. And more importantly than that, I want you to have good information about what is helpful to having healthy relationships. I was just at a training last week in Denver, Colorado, with the Relational Life Institute, of which I am part of the faculty. I'm a trainer for the Relational Life Institute. You can look them up if you want, find out what it's all about. It's essentially a modality of therapy focused on couples therapy, but it really is something much broader than that. And at that training, we were learning and presenting how to provide relationship boot camps. So I'm sharing this with you to let you know, because I will be offering the relationship boot camp in the fall. I have not set a date yet. So again, if you're on my email list, you'll find out the date as soon as I announce it. What is a relationship boot camp? Well, it's 2 days of education around relationship skills. And it's hosted in person. Most likely the first one's going to be in Columbia, Maryland, where my office is. It might actually be in my office. The details of that are being formed as I go along in the next few weeks. And it's for couples and individuals. And so I'll have multiple couples with me across those 2 days. It's not therapy, it's educational, and we'll learn together and explore together what works, what doesn't work, what we know about relational health, and how to do it better, because relationships are difficult and messy at times. So I wanted to share that with you here so that this is something that's coming, and it's going to be limited, right? I only have enough space for a certain number of couples. I haven't figured out exactly how many couples yet. I believe it'll be at least 6. It may be as many as 8 or 10 couples. I just have to figure out exactly what my space can allow for so we're comfortable and not smushed together. So make sure that you keep an eye out for that. I'll be sending out information over the next few weeks and months. So, the topic of discussion today, or at least my babbling on for a bit, is about the 5 losing strategies when it comes to relationships. So, let me preface this with this notion. All relationships go through periods of, if you think of it a little bit like a heartbeat, and you think about harmony, right? Just sort of the steady line. And then disharmony, there's that spike when things go awry. So you get disharmony and then repair back to harmony. There's no relationship that is truly intimate that skips over or doesn't have those moments of disharmony. In fact, those moments of disharmony actually have the potential to make the relationship much more intimate than those without any disharmony. I sort of think of relationships without any disharmony as superficial because we have differences, we have different ideas, we have different needs, we have different thoughts and different feelings, and those clash with the other person just naturally. So it's normal to have those spikes of disharmony. Where things tend to go wrong is when we don't have the skill for repair to bring us back to harmony. That's a lot of what I help people with in couples therapy is building the skills of repair to help get back to harmony. So often relationships experience that period of harmony, the disharmony, and then just a simmering disharmony that never gets addressed. And so it gets swept under the rug. There is no repair, and you go on as if things are okay. Lots of times the couples I work with talk about how, yeah, that happened, but we didn't, we just blew up, got mad at each other. One walked away, the other went and read or watched TV or did whatever, and then we didn't talk about it. And they return to some level of calm, perhaps, but it tends to be more like a seething discomfort of pretend calm because the upset feelings and issue don't get addressed enough to truly return to harmony. So that's a little bit of the frame around which I'm going to talk about the 5 losing strategies because these losing strategies are part of what we tend to do that create the disharmony. So let me be really clear. I'll just dive right into it now. The 5 losing strategies, and this is all from relational life therapy. The creator is Terry Real. He's been a huge mentor of mine, and I want to make sure I give credit where that is due. The 5 losing strategies are being right, controlling your partner, unbridled self-expression, retaliation, and withdrawal. So there are the 5, and I want to go through each one of them to give you a sense of, well, what is each of those? What does it actually look like? So let's talk about being right. When there's an upset, let's say your partner comes to you and says, it really bugged me that you didn't take the dog out yesterday while I was away at work all day. You were home all day, and you didn't take the dog out. And let's say the response to that upset is, well, she didn't need to go out. She didn't ask me to go out. So there was no need for me to take her out. In a way, that kind of response is saying, I'm right, you're wrong, and dismisses the other person's upset. Sometimes being right can look like arguing about the actual facts that the upset person is saying. So let's take another example um, where the upset person says, I was really upset with you when you yelled at me when we were out to dinner at the Italian restaurant last night. And the response is, we weren't eating Italian last night. Last night we went out for Chinese food with it. We didn't have Italian last night. First of all, it's not relevant to the upset what you were actually eating, which restaurant you were at, and it completely dismisses the other person's experience and the upset that they're talking about, and focuses more on objective facts. And the 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 difficult truth about relationships is that objectivity has really no place in it because subjective experiences are what relationships are all about. Each person having their own subjective experience in whatever interaction you're talking about. And so objectivity just kind of goes out the window. I'll talk more about that perhaps on another call, but I'm going to pause there on that one for the moment. So that's the first losing strategy, is being right. The second is controlling your partner. So, controlling really meaning trying to get them to do something that you want them to do. Sometimes that's handled directly, and sometimes it's handled indirectly. So, one way of trying to control your partner sometimes is done under the guise of, I'm just trying to be helpful. And we sort of consider that the sunny side of control, right? It's great to be helpful in a relationship, but not when it is a disguise for actually trying to get the other person to do what you want them to do. So that's a it can be a really direct way, right, of trying to control your partner. And then there's indirect ways. Oftentimes, passive aggressive is what this is referred to. Um, let's say there's dirty dishes in the sink and you don't want to do them. You're feeling frustrated that those dirty dishes are in the sink and you feel like you always do the dishes. And so you say something to the effect of, oh, don't worry about doing those dishes. I'll take care of them. I do them all the time, anyways, right? That's a really indirect way of passively trying to control your partner. You're trying to get them to do the dishes. You're not directly saying what's bothering you and what's upsetting you and hoping that your words will get them to perhaps jump up and say, well, oh no, I'll do it. I'll do it. Um, and so that's an example of passively or indirectly trying to control your partner. Um, If there were more of you here watching this right now, I would ask you, what are some ways that you have experienced in your life in a relationship, someone trying to be right, or you trying to be right, or controlling your partner, or someone trying to control you? Ashley, I see you're here. If you're able and can type something in or willing to type something in, that'd be fabulous. I just love to interact in whatever way. I'm going to go on to the third losing strategy, which is unbridled self-expression. Unbridled self-expression is a fancy way of saying just letting out whatever your feelings and thoughts are. It's where you don't use your own filter and measured way of saying what is bothering you or what's um, going on, what your thoughts are, what your feelings are. It's just like, it's like I get to vomit out whatever I'm thinking and feeling, and I feel better, but the other person has now vomit all over them or all over the floor in front of them. These are things like screaming and yelling, calling names, um, just letting out anything you're thinking and feeling. So that's what unbridled self-expression is, and it's what we call a boundaryless way of behaving. I mentioned the word containing before, and you'll see if you watch the previous video, the very first video on my YouTube channel, it's all about boundaries, about emotional boundaries. And it's in that I talk about the containing boundary, the emotional containing boundary that we have, where that boundary is like a cell membrane and it protects the world from me causing damage by spilling out all of my thoughts, feelings, needs, emotions, whatever, onto the world or onto the person I'm with. And when we're doing something that's considered unbridled self-expression, it's like that cell membrane isn't there, just ugh, it's just all spills out. So for more information about unbridled self-expression, or I'm sorry, about boundaries, go ahead and watch that first YouTube video that is on my site. All right, so now I'm going to move on to the fourth losing strategy, which is retaliation. Retaliation is really what it sounds like. It's like you made me feel a certain way. So because of that, I'm going to get back at you and I'm going to make you feel similarly or do something to get back at you for what you did. It's really quite clear, retaliation. So let me think of an example. An example of retaliation would be, okay, here's an example. I'm going to pretend this did not happen to me, but I'll describe it as if it did. I cooked a really amazing pot roast dinner, and it was ready at 6 o'clock when we always have dinner. But my husband didn't come home till 7:30, and he didn't call, and he didn't let me know he was going to be late. And so I had dinner with the kids, wrapped up the leftovers, put them in the fridge. He got home 7:30. I'm angry because I'd made this wonderful dinner. And he comes in, he's all like, "Oh God, I've had such a horrible day. Had got stuck at work for so long. I'm so hungry. What's to eat?" And I say to him, "You know, I made a really fabulous pot roast dinner, but you can't have any of it because you weren't here on time and you didn't call me and you didn't text me." That's retaliation. Okay? That's one example of retaliation. Then let's say my husband, again, this is did not particularly happen to me, but he's mad at that. He's mad that I'm saying you can't have the dinner that was made. And so he takes the dinner out of the fridge, throws it outside on the lawn. So now he's retaliated against me. And you can see how that would escalate, just one getting back at the other, getting back at the other, going, making the conflict worse and worse and worse. That's how retaliation works. All right, moving on to our fifth and I'd say really common losing strategy. All of these are really common. But let's talk about this one, which is withdrawal, the fifth losing strategy. Withdrawal is literally when you storm out of the room, or it can also be shutting down, going silent. You can withdraw from someone and be sitting right next to them. So withdrawal doesn't have to mean you physically leave, but you emotionally leave. You disengage from the conversation, from hearing what the other person is experiencing or hearing their upset. And maybe their upset is about you with something you've done or something you haven't done. And it's that uh, withdrawal and uh, it can be avoidance of the situation and shutting down emotionally, discontinuing the conversation. Um, and it's a losing strategy because frequently what will happen when someone withdraws is that the other person will pursue them, will go after them. Like, wait a minute, like I'm trying to tell you something that's bothering me. I'm trying to engage with you. Why are you being so quiet? Why did you walk away? So on. So let me ask you to do this. If you can, Ashley, give me a thumbs up if any of these losing strategies sound familiar to you. Have you ever experienced any of these in your life? Just send a thumbs up if possible. I'm always open to get feedback, and it's okay if you can't. Just figured I'd ask if you could.
Yeah, we can. I'm actually listening in with my partner about these strategies. I have a question if I'm allowed to ask.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for, engaging with me here. I really, really appreciate it. And it's totally cool to do it the way you're doing it. That's what I want to have available to everybody. So, yeah, let me just ask you this, just so I have a sense. Is your question about these losing strategies? Is it about something else? Just give me a sense of that.
It is about these losing strategies.
Okay, great. Bring it on. Tell me what your question is.
I'm wondering about the withdrawal one specifically. What would
Okay.
you suggest if you do have that losing strategy and that's something that you turn to? I find that I turn to that specifically because I don't know what else to do. Is there another strategy you can use if you do experience that?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So I'll answer it in this way. There are times when it's extremely appropriate and necessary for you to take time to gather yourself emotionally, to take some space and get into what I'll refer to as our wise mind. Okay. Sometimes withdrawal is used well, all of these strategies are used when we go into a mind state of reactivity, like something the other person just said or did sort of flips our lid a bit emotionally, and we go into using these strategies. It's a reactive response. A lot of people, myself included, have a reactive response that is withdrawal. It's a way of protecting ourselves. So there's a way to take that necessary space that is responsible rather than reactive.
Mm.
And the difference between responsible and reactive, taking space or withdrawal, is allowing your partner to know, saying something like, I'm feeling really overwhelmed at the moment. I want to hear what you have to say, but I can't listen emotionally right now. I'm going to, you know, go for a walk. I'm going to go listen to some music for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. And I want us to set a time to come back to this conversation so that I'm in a place emotionally where I can really hear what you have to say because I want to hear what you have to say. So the reason I'm describing that as responsible withdrawal, or what we call responsible distance taking, is because it honors your own emotions, right? That reactivity is real, it's valid, it's worth attending to, it needs tending to, but it also values your partner, what they're saying, and values the relationship, right? It sends the message, I care. I care about you. I care about us. I want us to work through this, but I also know that I'm not in the mindset to do that right now.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. I really appreciate the question. I'll say a little bit more about it if that's okay.
Yes.
Sometimes, not sometimes, this takes practice. We all experience moments of flipping into a reactive mindset. This is like the neurobiology of just being human. We get triggered, right? That's the common word we all use to describe it. I feel triggered. And it's our responsibility to manage our triggers, to manage our behavior around our triggers. And what I just described to you, the responsible way of taking some distance, is the way to manage that trigger. It means taking a breath. It means pausing, recognizing that I'm in this reactive place. And nothing good comes from a conversation. Repair can't really happen when one, or especially if both people, are in a reactive state of mind. Tell me what
Mm.
your thoughts are about that as I describe that.
Yeah. My partner Corey's here too, and he's gonna respond.
Great.
What
Hi, Corey.
Hey, how you doing? So one, we both, I think, identified our losing strategies. So as she's asking questions about, you know, something that she may deal with, I'm thinking about what you said also. Um, because sometimes I think like if say like you're refraining or trying to hold back like an emotion towards something that you may be hearing, for example. And as you're, this is for me, this is how I feel. Like my
Okay.
anxiety might go up.
Uh-huh.
And then to be prepared to answer the question in the right way for her, it may come off. Maybe I needed a moment to just say, hey, let me step away from that. Maybe that's better than trying to go through um to try to like I guess answer the question, or in my head I'm being patient and I'm not, but then she may point out like, hey, you sound frustrated, or you made this face when you answered that. What's that about? And I feel something behind it. So I guess
Mm.
what I'm trying to relate to is, because maybe that works for me too, is if I feel anything, it's that a time to kind of step away and say, hey, I have an answer for you. Just let me think about it for a moment, or something like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. First of all, Corey, the fact that you're noticing that you're experiencing anxiety or emotions as she's talking about something, that is the first skill to really build on, right? It's just noticing that. Far too often, we respond without even noticing what's going on for us. So kudos to you for noticing that, right? And anytime you notice that, hey, I'm feeling this emotional reactivity, I'm feeling the anxiety build, it's a very appropriate time to pause and say something like you just said, hey, I think I need to take a moment because I want to answer your question or I want to give you a response, but I want to do so from, you can use my words now that you've heard it, right? I want to do so from a wise mind state, not a reactive place. And I'm feeling a little reactive. What would that be like to try on, Corey?
Um, It was so I think I can do it. I think what I worry about in my mind is being able to provide her with what she's looking for at the time. And then if I react in that way, and I think I just need to go ahead and do it. But if I react in that way, where does that leave her feeling? Oh, is there a reason why you can't answer this right now? Or, I think I really want to be able to what I think is helping. But ultimately, by taking that pause, coming back and giving her the appropriate answer probably helps more than reacting, or showing I feel some type of way.
Yeah. Yeah. And, your concern about how she might feel if you take that pause is a really thoughtful and really reasonable one, right? The goal of having a conversation when one of you is bothered by something, the goal of the conversation is to make things better, right? It's not to make things worse, it's to repair things. And I hear you saying, I don't want to do anything that's going to make this worse. I want to do something that's going to make it better. So since both of you are here and both of you are, uh, you know, talking with me about this, I would recommend the idea that you come to some agreement around this. Let's try this on together. That it be sort of a contract, right? When I'm feeling anxious, I'm going to say to you, I'm feeling something, I'm feeling anxious, but I want to give you an answer. I want to respond to what you're saying. I need a few minutes. Can I come back to you in 10 minutes? Right? And have an agreement that either of you gets to do that so that the next time something comes up and you need to do this, you can worry less about how she might feel when you do this because you've made this contract. And Ashley, if you were to make this contract, part of the work would be to regulate how you feel when he steps away. Corey, this would be for you too if she were to step away. Part of the work is to regulate our own emotions when the other person can't provide us what we want and need immediately. But the key to this is there has to be an agreement to come back to the conversation. Okay. So let me check in with you both and see what you're thinking as I describe this.
I think we can try it, I think I agree we need to figure out make sure that we are both in agreement with trying it on. Um I I wonder too, is there a time limit to it, because I guess you don't want to say, "Hey, I need to step away," and then we're gone all day, and then
Yeah.
is there a time that we should kind of keep it in if we do try it?
Yeah. So what I'm sharing with you is an abbreviated version of what we call and what I teach in the boot camps that I mentioned earlier, and what I teach to a lot of my clients is the new rules for a timeout. And what I've described just now is really an abbreviated version of it because within the rules of a timeout, there is an agreement to return within a certain time frame, to check in with each other within a certain time frame, but also to not address the issue for 24 hours. Now, that doesn't mean you don't talk for 24 hours. It means whatever the issue was that was brought up and that was like distressing and you felt like you couldn't um, speak to in the moment, that issue gets tabled for 24 hours. That may be a little anxiety provoking for a lot of people as I describe this. But here's the thing. I want to share it with you because it's important. A timeout is used unilaterally. In other words, I'm going to make this up. Ashley, you come to Corey and you say, XYZ is bothering me. I need us to talk about this. And Corey, you're feeling anxious about it and aren't able to talk about it right then. Or you start talking about it, and in the middle of talking about it, Corey, you feel anxious and can't continue because you feel what I'll describe as the whoosh that comes over us when we feel reactive to something. You feel it physically in your body, and your mind sort of goes offline. When I say a timeout is unilateral, it means, Corey, you say, Ashley, I need to take a timeout. And Ashley, you allow him to take a timeout. There's no convincing him to do otherwise or trying to get him to do otherwise. You allow the timeout to happen. A timeout is called when I realize I am not able to be in my wise mind in this conversation, and I need to take care of me, which in turn takes care of us. Because if I don't take care of me, I might do damage to us, with words said that, can't take back, things that are done that are harmful or more distressing, right? It's a timeout is a way of stopping, I'll say, an emotionally violent interaction. Now, violent, I don't mean that um, uh, hyperbolically. Am I saying that right? I don't know if I'm even getting that word right. Um, but meaning I don't want to do more damage, so I'm going to step away. So it's unilateral. So Ashley, when you talk about the time frame, when you take a time out, there is an agreement to come back to the conversation 24 hours later, when both of you have cooler heads and are in a wise mind state and able to start the conversation again. There are a lot more details to a timeout. This is really kind of just kind of touching on it. So let me check in with you as to what your thoughts are as you hear me describe this.
It's definitely anxiety for producing because 24 hours is a very lengthy amount of time if you want to like get stuff done. And I happen to have that type of personality. Like I like to just fix it right away. I don't like to leave things. You know, um,
Yeah.
so 24 hours, but I see why you're saying that. I definitely see that within that time period, you would be able to have more of a sound mind to come to the conversation with. So, I, I definitely think it's something we can try and should try.
Good for you. Yeah, and your anxiety about waiting the 24 hours is really genuine. And I'm gonna guess, maybe you'll tell me I'm wrong, but I'm gonna guess that part of the reason that might be anxiety provoking for you and for many others is because your experience in the past is we never come back around to actually talk about it. It
Mm-hmm.
just gets dropped, it just gets left. And a timeout has the promise of return built into it very purposefully. So if you know, let's say an upset happens at noon today, and you know that the two of you are going to sit down and talk about it at 1 p.m. tomorrow, you can then do between now and 1 p.m. tomorrow the things you need to do to regulate yourself, to manage the anxiety for that period of time, knowing, okay, 2 o'clock tomorrow, we're going to sit down and talk about it. And that's a contract between the two of you. Right?
Okay.
And the more we stick to our contracts with one another, the more trust increases in the relationship. Yeah?
Mm.
Yeah.
So I have a question. Um, So what about returning to the prior state of of whatever the conflict is? Because for someone, whether it's me or Ashley, if we're not getting that resolution, we've made this contract, we've agreed to come back to this 24 hours from now. But what about like the temperament of the rest of the day? Like,
Yeah.
where do we regain what we had prior to the conflict without
Yeah.
kind of creating, like a stare off for the rest of the time? We want to still be able to enjoy our time.
Absolutely. That's such a great thing to point out. This is what you do. You ready? It might shock you. Tell me when you're ready.
Ready.
All right. This is what you do. You be nice to each other.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay? And I say it that way because it's simple, but it's not necessarily easy. And the more you practice actually taking a time out, actually spending the time regulating yourself and then coming back to the conversation as promised and talking it through, the more you're going to build that muscle of knowing, hey, I know we're going to come back to this. And so I can be calmer and so I can be nicer. The whole purpose is you want to repair things with each other. And yes, there's this issue, but you can put it on the shelf, knowing that together you're going to take it off the shelf and come back to it and discuss it. That allows you to relax and be able to be nice to each other. And nice might be like, you know what? Let's just have the dinner that we plan to have, watch the movie we plan to watch, tuck the kids into bed, and know with confidence that this isn't getting brushed under the rug, but we've got to live our lives and take care of our lives and enjoy our life together until we return to that difficult thing that we need to discuss. What's that like to hear?
Um, I think what you're saying ultimately is in any of these things is it's going to take practice. It's going to become more comfortable the more we get used to it. And right now we're not used to it. So I
Yeah,
think we still feel like the anxiety of that. But I think we both agree that it's something we look forward to do.
Mhm.
good on you guys. You're right. Like what I'm describing to you and what you're asking about are new tools, new skills. How do we do this differently? Because the way we're doing it right now doesn't work for us.
Mhm.
And just like anything else, just like learning to ride a bicycle, the sort of common example is at first it feels really awkward and clunky. Which way do I lean? Where do I put my hands? Where do I tilt my head? How do I pedal and look where I'm going? It feels really awkward. That's true with any new skill, including relationship skills. So I'll say this to you, allow it to feel clunky, allow yourselves to feel like beginners. Know that with practice, it'll get easier over time. And know that even if you do it poorly at first, it'll be better than not doing it at all.
Yep,
Mhm.
Okay?
Yeah.
agreed.
I'm going to thank you guys so, so much for coming on this call with me. I really am grateful to you. And if you email me, it's just use my Risa at togethercouplescounseling.com. Actually, I think it's Risa Ganel at togethercouplescounseling.com.
Mhm.
Email me and I will send you a sheet that describes the new rules of a timeout. It goes into more detail than I did here, and I just want you to have that. Okay?
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much. We appreciate your time today, and we're trying to get better at this. So we're using any tool that's out there or trying to discover more techniques. So we just really, really appreciate this. Thank you for
Oh,
doing.
good for you. You're very welcome. You are pioneers in trying to make this better. So, good on you. It changes the world, right? When we improve our relationships, because it's our relationships that matter most. It has ripple effects. I don't know if you have children or not, but
We
it
do.
has ripple effects.
Yeah, we do. So thank you so much. And we'll send you that email.
Great, great. All right. I look forward to getting it and sending out the timeout information to you. All right, I'm going to sign off for today
Okay.
and thank you for being here. And I hope to see you again on a future call.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
You're welcome. All right, everyone. That's it. And just as Ashley and Corey came on without their video but asked their questions, I welcome you to do the same thing. You do not have to turn your video on. You can change your name on the screen as well, whatever is comfortable for you. And I will see you again next month. These calls primarily happen the first Wednesday of the month at noon. But today was the second Wednesday because I was away last week. So if you're on my email list, you will get the announcement of when the next call will be. But I'll see you in June and take good care of each other. Bye.